So, welcome back to Module 2 of Quiet Power. Today, this is all about reclaiming your unfiltered voice, being fully seen, fully expressed, and fully paid. Now, in Module 1, we talked a lot about the difference between being performative and being in your presence. You discover the types of behaviors that actually are performative that you might be using in your business or in your life. We talked about the reasons why we perform, that it's really a safety strategy that we were conditioned to learn. And for most of us, we learned it as a child, but the thing is that it's reaffirmed and reaffirmed all throughout our life. So it can actually come into play at any point in your life. And you got to do a little digging on yourself and do a self-reflection in the form of a performance inventory to actually see where are you on the spectrum of between performative behaviors versus being present, or what I sometimes like to say, your power energy, right? Like being in that quiet power energy. So that's what we looked at last time, all about this difference between performative behavior and just being in your present, powerful energy. Now, today we are stepping into a whole new level of expression, and it's a level that most women spend a lifetime trying to avoid. Not because they're not powerful, but because the world taught most of us to be digestible, to be agreeable, to be palatable. And yet your unfiltered voice is the most valuable asset that you have in business. It's not about your strategy. It's not about even your offer. It's not about how many followers you have. And those are things that we put a lot of emphasis on in business, but it's really about your true voice, tapping into and embodying and holding that true voice in everything you do in your business. Your voice is what makes people actually feel you. Your voice is what draws those premium clients into your world. And your voice is what sells before any script does. It's really that voice, that is how you express the presence that is you. And so you've probably gotten to the place in your life and business that you are today, largely through your performative voice, largely through doing those behaviors like we talked about in Module 1. We're going to get into that more this module, that you feel like you have to do in order to get what you want, prove that you deserve what you want, and keep yourself safe in this world. There is another very insidious performance-based behavior that we're going to address today that we didn't even talk about in Module 1. And it is this tendency for smart, caring, successful women, just like yourself, to dim your voice, to make yourself smaller than you actually are, to hide yourself, to cover over those boldest parts of you, those things that actually make you be you. We tend to hide them. We tend to make them small. And if you were drawn to this program, then that says to me that you've probably outgrown that whole performative thing, right? You're probably getting to the point where even if you can't name it, you feel it and you're tired of it, right? Like you're done performing for the scraps. You're done making yourself smaller than you know you really are. You're done not taking your place at the table, at the boardroom table, at the head of the table in your business and in your life. And you're finally ready to be seen. And that might scare you a little bit, but you're ready to be seen not so much as the curated professional, being all polished, being perfect, but as the real you who's fully in your power. And that's really what the scary piece is finally stepping into that. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. It's about being the you that speaks truth without apology, right? You're going to own it. That's the expression of you that attracts your most ideal clients, the people that are only here in this world to learn from you. These are the ones that get the best results from working with you because you're now resonating at a frequency that they can actually see, that they can feel. And it's not because you're performing some pattern that's relatable. The premium clients do not resonate with that at all. That is everywhere on the internet, and it doesn't draw in the person meant to work with you. It might draw in other people, which we're going to talk about later. It will not be easy for those most ideal people to find you until you fully embody your unfiltered voice. So Let's talk about what's actually happening when your voice feels small or muted. It's not that you don't know what to say, although I know some of you are thinking, well, I don't really know what to say, Jill. And that is just a defense mechanism to keep you muted, is to think that you don't know what to say and you don't know what to write and you don't know what to share. Okay. So keep that in mind. But it's really because you were trained psychologically, socially, spiritually, that being fully expressed was unsafe. And you probably weren't told that, right, in so many words, but you got the message loud and clear through parenting and school and church and being in the job. Like that is the message that it's really not safe to totally be yourself, right? And so, what this did was adapt us to take on certain roles to keep us safe. And I want to run through 7 roles. You're going to relate to some of these, and you may relate to all of them in some way. And there's probably one or two that you notice is like kind of your go to. So, I'm going to go through these, and these are in your guidebook. But I just invite you to listen to what I'm sharing on these. Tune in to yourself. Feel for you which of the ones you most resonate with, meaning that, oh, yeah, that's me. And just jot it down in a journal, notebook, or even on your guidebook if you want. Like put a little check mark by the ones where you're like, oh, yeah, this is totally me. So let's run through these roles. There probably are other roles, but these are the 7 that I see the most in working with my clients. So, first one, and this is such a popular one, and I totally relate to this because this is one of my big roles, is the good girl. And so, this is where you're taught that being agreeable, being pleasant, being easy to work with made you good. So, you soften your truths, you apologize for your power, you speak in ways that won't ruffle any feathers, and your voice becomes careful instead of confident. And the underlying signature thought with this voice is, I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. So we take on those good girl behaviors. Now, the second role is the humble healer. And this is where you're deeply intuitive, you're powerful, you're wise. But somewhere along the way, you learned that your gifts might overwhelm people. And so you downplay your brilliance, you water down what your message is, you hide the depth of what you really know. And the signature thought for the humble healer is, I don't want to come across as intense or too powerful. So we water it down. Now, the next role is the nurturing empath. And now this role I want to point out is very closely linked to the good girl. If you are an empath, you probably have both of these. If you are a good girl, you may not have this if you're not an empath, which makes sense, right? So the nurturing empath is where you feel everything, including other people's reactions to you. And so because of that, you monitor your tone, your language, your volume, your opinions in an attempt to keep everyone comfortable. And your voice becomes a negotiation instead of a declaration. And the signature thought with the nurturing empath is, I want them to feel good around me. Okay. Now, the next one is the overgiver. And a lot of women entrepreneurs have this one. It's where you learned that the way to be valued was to give more, to do more, to show up more than anyone else. Your generosity is real, but underneath that generosity sits a fear that your natural presence is not enough on its own. So we have to overcompensate by overgiving. So you overdeliver, you oversupport, you overextend yourself, you overfunction, hoping that that will translate into appreciation or loyalty. And your voice ends up becoming self-sacrificing instead of self-honoring. And this is where we see a lot of people fall into burnout and like to where they just can't do it anymore, or even on an extreme level, like getting sick because they're just working too much. They're giving too much. They're doing too much, and they aren't able to replenish. And so the signature thought with this one, the overgiver, is if I give more, they'll see how valuable I am. Now, the pleasant entrepreneur, this is where you fear that if you're too bold, if you're too direct, if you're too unapologetic in how you show up and what your message is and how you teach and support, that you might turn people away. And so you dilute your point, you over explain, or you soften your message so that you stay approachable. And what happens is your content ends up becoming pleasant. It might be inspiring for people, but it's not powerful. And the signature thought with the pleasant entrepreneur is if I'm too strong, people won't buy. So there's definitely a money component coming in with this one. And then the peacekeeping mother or the peacekeeping daughter or the peacekeeping partner, okay, all the same thing, manifests in different ways depending on the relationship. But if you're the peacekeeping person, you were trained to manage emotions, smooth edges, and maintain harmony at all costs. Now, your voice often carries the responsibility of making sure that no one gets upset, even when telling the truth is what's really needed. Okay, so you take that on, you change your voice to make sure that harmony is maintained. And the signature thought with the peacekeeping mother, daughter, partner is it's easier if I just don't make waves. So we don't say the thing that's true. We do whatever we can to make it smooth and easy for people. And then the last one I want to talk about today is the muted corporate leader. Now, you may resonate with this if you were ever in a corporate environment or even, in a job where you moved up through the ranks. So this one is where you learn to speak in a polished, strategic, measured way, because that's the professional way. So you wouldn't be labeled as emotional or aggressive or unprofessional, which happens to a lot of women. They get labeled in that way in a corporate environment. So that conditioning still lingers. Even if you've gotten out of that situation, it's still kind of there. And it's keeping your entrepreneurial voice overly formal, cautious, and restrained. And so the signature thought with the muted corporate leader is, I need to sound appropriate. So I would love to know, let me know, just pop it in the chat if you want, like what one or two or three of these roles most resonated with you. Just let me know that. And there is a space in your guidebook to also reflect on that. Okay. But we're not going to take the time to do that at this moment, but definitely think about that for yourself, because a lot of your decisions, your habits, your behaviors will hinge upon the role that you're playing. So having an awareness of what roles you slip into will help you identify the behaviors that you want to be aware of and probably change if you don't want to be stuck in those roles. So Linda said, peacekeeper, nurturing empath, good girl, humble healer. Yeah. For most of the heart-centered spiritual women that I work with, those are the biggies. We're peacekeepers. We want to take care of everybody. We don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable, right? And we're probably hiding our gifts, especially if we want to be in a business. We know we've got these gifts that could really make a difference, but we don't feel safe to do it. So beautiful, beautiful. The thing to know about these roles, and this is really important, you're not broken. Like I want everyone to hear that. These roles do not mean that you are broken. These roles actually mean you are brilliant because you found a way to compensate for being in a position where you didn't feel it was safe to use your voice. So that's amazing because that's a skill right there, right? To find a way to live in the world. And most of us, vast majority of people, that's what we do. We find a way to survive in this world. And it usually means we have to change who we are and how we express ourselves. You did it as a way to be accepted. You did it as a way to belong. You did it as a way to stay safe. Okay, that's, in my mind, that's being smart. That's not being broken. Okay. And all of these roles we just talked about are simply, they've all fall into the group that I call the performative voice. Because all of them are some level of performing something that isn't really real, but it's what you think you need to do to get what you want, whether it's in business, clients, approval of people, money, likes on your post, and safety. So, safety is the big one, right? The truth is that these performative voice patterns are costing you massive in business and probably in life, right? Because at some point, the you that's you is going to be like, I'm exhausted. I'm done with this. But in business, it costs you a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to have to perform all the time. It takes a lot of energy. It costs you money because you're probably undercharging to not like hurt people or harm people, right? And you're probably not attracting the clients that you're actually meant to work with, which, if you did, would help you grow your business. These roles dim your true voice, and they dim the leader that you are, and they dim the ability for your premium clients to actually hear and see you. They dim the you that they're actually waiting to have show up. The reality is that it's not that you won't attract clients using your performative voice. And how do I know that? Because I see it all over the place. People using a performative voice and having clients, like, and even having like waiting lists of clients. So it's not about that, but it's that your most ideal, best fit clients who get the results that you deliver, that clients get from working with you. It's you attract the clients that aren't going to push your boundaries. They're not going to be late on their payments. They don't expect everything for nothing. The people that get the most burnt out using the performative voice, who have a full client roster, they're exhausted because they're attracting clients who do all of those things. They push the boundaries. There's late payments. They're, DMing them all the time. It's exhausting, and it's burning them out fast, and it's making them hate their business. It's a big time and energy drain to be in that performative voice. And I know that my ideal clients are at a point in their lives where they're looking for ease. We don't want to burn out. We have a lot of interest in our life. We want to have a life that includes all of the things we love, our businesses, our family, our hobbies, the things we're interested in. We want to have all of those things. And when you run your business from the performative voice, everything gets crowded out except the business. And that's when it becomes exhausting. And that's not what I want for you. So the good news is that the true voice that you own your true voice, comes the most naturally to you. You may not believe that, but it actually does. Meaning that when you allow yourself to step into your true voice, you spend a lot less energy. It's a lot more natural. The creative ideas flow much easier because you stop blocking them, right? Thinking that's not appropriate. I got to filter this one. I got to tone this one down. And you just let it be the message that it is. So I want to take a look now at the difference between the performative voice and the, let's call it the quiet power voice. Okay. So the performative voice is the voice where we feel like we have to over-explain or we have to over-justify so as not to be misunderstood or so as not to trigger anybody. And many heart-centered, high-achieving women, we do this. And I call it like the walking on eggshells phenomenon. It's where you feel like you've got to walk on eggshells with everything you post, with everything you say. And if you don't, like, bad things are going to happen, right? Again, the safety mechanism. And the thing is, when we're walking on eggshells all the time, and this is not going to come as any surprise, it's exhausting. It is really exhausting to have to check yourself constantly, right? And it's no way to have joy in a business or in any aspect of life when you have to walk on eggshells all the time. The truth is, everyone does not have to agree with you. Everyone does not have to like you. What's most important is you have to be true. And yes, I said you have to be true. You have to be true if you want to feel free. You don't have to be true if you don't care about being free, but my ideal clients do. So that's why I'm telling you, we need to be true. We need to find a way to be true so we can feel the most free. So one of the big breakthroughs that I had, and I'm still working through this, okay? And it was a breakthrough when it happened, was when I realized how much I relied on believing that like everyone has to like me. I remember specifically the day when I thought, oh my God, this was the epiphany, like, oh my gosh, You mean not everybody likes me? Like it was, I don't know why, but that was such a shock for me. And it was so refreshing at the same time because it released a lot of pressure to have to be a certain way. So that's if you have any level of like, I need everybody to like me, I need everybody's approval, I need permission, I need this, I need that. Hear me when I say everyone does not have to agree with you and you can still be safe. Okay. And so that's something to practice. That you might want to write that down if that's like a trigger for you. Everyone doesn't have to agree with me for me to still be safe. Everyone doesn't have to like me for me to still be safe. And to sit with that and to sit with why would that be true? How would that be true? And kind of live with that idea. And here's another layer to this. Some people listening to this right now really need to hear this. Your business, especially with a heart-centered woman, like this might like blow your mind a little bit. Your business is not here to take care of anyone. Yes, I said it. It's true. Your business is not here to take care of anyone. If you are viewing that your business needs to take care of someone, that's heavy and exhausting. It is not your job to take care of any other grown adult. And that extends to your business. Your business exists not to take care of someone, but to solve a problem and to facilitate a result. That's why you're here. That's why you have a business, to solve a problem and facilitate a result, not to take care of people. Do you get the difference? Like, do you feel the difference of that? That's a total mind shift for some people. And here's the thing that is interesting about a premium client, because a lot of people who have clients that burn them out and they find them to be exhausting, those are not premium clients. Okay. So if we haven't talked about this yet, and I'm not sure we have, let me just quickly share what a premium client is in my definition. It's not about how much money they spend. Premium client is someone who takes responsibility for themselves. They are willing to invest in themselves to get a result. They commit to what they want and they follow through. That's a premium client. And a lot of times, because they are driven and they have high goals, what they want to do, it might cost more than $100, right? Because it's probably bigger work. But premium client is not defined by, oh, they pay a certain amount. No, it's really the quality that they show up with and the way they approach their life. And so the key about understanding that your business is not here to take care of anyone is because a premium client does not need, nor do they even want to be taken care of by you. Like they're not looking for someone to take care of them. They're independent, they're smart people, they're empowered enough to take care of themselves. This does not mean they don't have things they need support with, but support and taking care of are two completely different things. You do not want clients who are dependent on you. You should be a resource to your clients, a treasured member of their team of support, right? But not a crutch, not a crutch. So I hope you get the difference here. Your quiet power voice, and this is how we bring it back to this voice thing we're talking about today, because your quiet power voice helps you draw in the premium clients who are not looking for a crutch. You know, they're looking for an answer. Yes. They're looking to find a result. They're looking to get a problem resolved. They're not looking for you to be the one that solves their problem and carry them on your back. Okay. But some clients do. They're not your premium clients. So knowing that, how you want to think about how you show up in your voice, performative voice versus quiet power voice, it means eliminating the extra words. It means eliminating the disclaimers, the additional context, the over explanations, just to make sure that no one misinterprets you or gets upset or feels judged or thinks that you're being too bold or too direct or too confident. All of those things, the disclaimers, the extra words, the additional context, all of that are performative safety strategies that soften the truth to avoid discomfort. That's why you use them. But as I've described, previously, premium clients, they don't need that. That doesn't draw them in. That draws in the client who's going to be needy. The other thing to just remember, and this may trigger some people, but it's my truth and I'm going to share it, okay, is, and I really believe this is true. I don't think it's just my truth, is you don't actually have the power to make anyone feel a certain way with your words. I know this is a big debate right now in society, but I do not believe that any one person has that power over someone else simply through words, unless the person you are giving the words to agrees with it and takes it on. You have to allow that and take it on for it to harm you. Okay. If you feel triggered by something someone says, or if you trigger someone by something you say to someone else, being in your true voice, perhaps it can happen, you're touching on something that's already inside them. And you're also probably touching a person that has like a wounding in that area. They're not empowered in that area. So knowing that can, I think anyways, can help free us a little bit from the responsibility of that, like, oh my God, I've got to walk on eggshells with everything I say, right? Because you don't. You really don't, because you don't have that power. I mean, that is making yourself way more powerful than you actually are. You're powerful in your life, but you don't have that power over someone else's life, okay? And you don't want to draw in the clients that think that you do have that power over them either. That's not a great situation. So think about how this lands for you. Think about how it lands. Think about how you feel about some of the things that I just shared. And if you're feeling anything that needs exploring, write it down, because there's some juice in there for you. There's a nugget, there's a gift around what I've just shared. So make a little note so that you can come back and do a little bit of journaling on this point about your words, how you use your words and landing on someone else. In business, your job is to serve your clients with what you know will help them solve their particular problem. It's not about making sure that every word comes across right and that everyone has to like what you're saying. This is not to say, and I'm not giving anyone permission to do this, that you can just say mean, hurtful things without thinking about what's coming out of your mouth, right? I am not talking about that. And I also know that my ideal people are heart-centered people that wouldn't do that anyways. We want to help people. We don't want to harm people, right? That's the trap that we fall into, is because we so don't want to harm people that we throw ourselves into a performative voice, and it stops your business from growing with the right kinds of clients, and it burns you out because you're having to do too much energetic work, with your own energy to be able to come up with the right words. It's exhausting. Okay. Hopefully I've made my point with all of this. Okay. So I've put in your guidebook some very specific examples of what a performative voice looks like when it comes to like adding unnecessary context, over justifying your point, anticipating like the reader's reaction and then changing your words, making your message longer than it really needs to be, like adding all these extra words to make sure no one's feathers get ruffled, right? And you phrase it right. So there are some specific examples in your guidebook. I'm not going to go through them now. You can read them at your leisure. But the general takeaway is the most powerful message is the most clear. When you have to be verbose, it becomes unclear. It's like it makes people wonder, like, what did she just say? It just becomes unclear. And it also softens your authority. Someone in their authority speaks clearly and concisely, and they say what they need to say. And when you have to over explain and be in a voice that is trying to keep everyone happy, win people over, convince people, all of that, that's all performative voice. you dampen your authority. Like you don't really seem like you're certain. You don't really come across as being that confident, and you blend in with an awful lot of people that are online doing the exact same thing. So the people that stand out the most are the people that are the most bold and the most clear and the most concise and the most themselves. And you've probably seen these people. I certainly have. And it's like, wow, you lean in, right? That those people do not need to convince you of anything. They're standing in their truth and in their power. And that's where we want to move to, from having to convince anyone, which is not fun, to just owning our voice, speaking our voice, and knowing and trusting that the ideal people that are meant to be with us will see us in that. So the last thing I want to share before we move into the quiet power voice and talk about that for a minute is that there is a core pattern that underlies this whole performative voice, over explaining, making sure, the words are soft and all of that. There is a core pattern that underlies all of what we've just talked about. And it is this, that if I fully own my expertise, someone might reject me. And that's a safety issue, right? Being rejected. This performative voice, it fears being judged. It does not want to be judged and seen as wrong. And so it comes across as passive and unclear, like we talked about. And so what do? You use too many words to protect yourself from that. That's basically what this whole over-explaining thing is. We use it as a protection from being judged, rejected, and seen as wrong. And when you do that, you lose the clarity, your message loses its edge, your authority gets muddled, premium clients are not going to be able to feel you, and your content becomes exhausting to create. So that's the performative voice. The quiet power voice is the opposite. It's like we're looking at a spectrum: performative voice, performative behaviors, power voice, presence behaviors. Okay, we're on a spectrum here. The quiet power voice is going to be over here. And it says, it's very simple. I trust my voice. I trust my clarity. I trust that the right people will understand me, and I don't need to over-explain to be safe. The quiet power voice, it uses fewer words, and the words that you do use land deeper. That voice is felt. It's felt by your ideal clients. It's also the voice that sells for you. It sells an idea, it sells a message, it sells a program, it sells whatever. And we are selling all the time, whether we're in a business or not, right? Selling what's for dinner tonight, right? That's the voice that sells, the voice that is the most true for you. So the quiet power voice, it speaks from grounded truth. It makes clear, clean statements. It doesn't over-explain or try to convince or try to justify. It uses your natural out to coffee with a friend tone. So that's something to take note of, not the professional one. Okay, we were trained to be professional. We don't speak that way normally. It allows silence. It's okay to have there be a gap in speaking. And it sounds like someone that knows what she's doing, because you do. You do know. You do know. And I can honestly say that it's like a journey to get comfortable with the voice. Even though I said when I started talking about this that your quiet power voice, your authentic voice is the most natural. It's the easiest. It's really the most natural you. But we're so unpracticed with using it, and especially in a business setting. So it does take a level of practice to build up a level of trust in that voice of yours, your true voice. You do sort of have to walk through that fire of doing it, of putting it out there, speaking clearly, speaking cleanly, and speaking powerfully, and noticing, oh, I'm still safe. No one jumped through the computer and grabbed me by the neck or whatever. And because that's what it can feel like, right? That's a real fear that people can have, or someone's going to come hunt me down. No. So it does take a practice. I want you to know that it takes a practice to find that level of trust and safety in that voice. And really the only way to do it is to walk through the fire, is to more and more say what you mean to say and deal with the consequence. I believe, okay, this is Jill here saying this, that we are all respectful of humans, right? Like generally, like the most authentic, the happiest people that we are, like if we didn't have all the pressures of day-to-day life, are why would we ever disrespect anybody? Like we wouldn't, right? So when we're practicing saying what we really want to say, sometimes what happens is it comes out aggressively, right? And it can come out disrespectfully too, because we're practicing extremes. So like even with the quiet power voice, you've got extremes in where you go with it. We're practicing until we find where it feels the most natural and where we feel like the most you or me, right? We feel the most ourselves. So I'm just saying that because what you might notice when you start doing it is, whoa, like that didn't go so well because like maybe you did say something in a hurtful way. That is not who you are, but that is sometimes what we have to do as we practice doing completely almost opposite of how we've been expressing, right? So I hope that makes sense. And I hope you give yourself permission to let that be okay while you are building that trust within yourself. So to sum up this conversation about performative voice and what that looks like versus quiet power voice, and you probably noticed I talked a lot shorter about quiet power voice than I did about performative voice because it's natural, it's easy, and it's you. Okay. It's just you. It doesn't need a lot of words. So performative voice is the voice that's going to work really hard to keep everybody happy. It has, keep everybody, like keep the harmony, keep the peace. Power voice works to create the clarity and the energy for your most ideal clients. So and that's easy because when you are you, you are clear. When you let yourself be you, you let yourself be clear. Nice equals palatable. Power equals clear. Premium clients aren't buying nice. They're not buying nice. They're not looking for that. Premium clients want clear, clean, confident. Clear, clean, confident. That voice is your most authentic voice. Okay, take a deep breath. And now let's just feel into the difference between these voices. Okay. So go ahead and just sit tall in your seat. This is going to be really, really quick, and it's something you can do anytime. And I'll talk about what that could look like for you. Anytime you're writing something or you're about to share something with someone, you can use this. Relax your shoulders. Just sit nice and tall, but relax. Take a few deep breaths. And I'm going to say something, and then I want you to say it to yourself in your own head as if you're saying it to someone else. Okay. I hope this sounds okay. So I want you to say this to yourself in your head, or you can say it out loud if you want, if you're muted. And I want you to feel what you feel in your body. Just if you have to say it a few times, that's fine. You're explaining something to someone and then you end it with, I hope that's okay. Just feel what you feel in your body when you say that. I hope that's okay. And now pause. And I'm going to give you another statement. And I want you to do the same thing. Say it in your mind, or you can say it out loud and feel what you feel in your body when you say this. So you're talking to someone, and then you end with this. This is what's true for me. This is what's true for me. And notice what you feel. So if you want, I'd love for you to share what you felt. And if you want to unmute, if you want to just share it, or you can type it. Totally up to you.
It's interesting because I had a really clear imagery in the two, and in the first one, it was like a tree trunk, and it was hollow. So I had the trunk, but it was very hollow. In the second one, I had the tree. It was solid, and it also had the roots. Like it was just it. So yeah, there was a big difference there. So that's the best way to describe it that I can come up with. Yeah,
That is beautiful. That is
thanks.
beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a
I
big
love
difference.
that.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's such a huge difference. And that's like the groundedness, right?
Yeah.
That's like the wholeness of you.
Hmm.
And that so imagine if you're like going through your business and creating things and working, living your day-to-day life as a hollow tree.
Yeah.
I
Like you look
mean,
good, but you're
yeah,
empty. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. Empty, right.
Hmm. It's
And
crazy.
right. Whereas if, you're whole, there's a like a groundedness with the roots, right?
Yes.
So I love, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks. Sure. Yeah. That was
Yeah, it's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah, you've inspired that to come through too. So thank you.
Of
Clarity.
course.
We got
Yeah, right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I recommend you do with this is for everybody, is when you're like if you're writing a piece of content or you're writing a sales page or you're about to have let's say a sales conversation with someone, or you just like you need to have a conversation with someone about anything, it could be in your private life, whatever, is practice what you think you're going to say. Do this with it. Do what you feel like you should say, and then do what you really want to say, to notice the difference and start getting comfortable with being the full grounded you. Because this is what creates a lot more ease with everything. And it allows you to be understood better, felt better, and heard. So I love this practice. So hopefully you can use it. All right. So we talked about in module one how all of this, like the foundation, what really supports all the work that we're doing in quiet power, the performative behaviors, finding your presence, being in your presence, performative voice, using your quiet power voice, the voice of your truth, the voice of your authenticity. We talked about what underlies all of that are the five voices of your quiet power, right? It's your most authentic self. And so, what I want to do at this point is I want to bring in and tie in the voices that are most present in this module when we're talking about your actual voice that you're expressing out. And there's three voices that come into play big time in this module and in this part of the lesson. So, I just want to bring that in right now. The number one voice that we are activating in this module is the voice of self-acceptance. Like by far, it's the voice of self-acceptance. Why? Because this is where the identity shifts happen. The vast majority of the identity shift into your quiet power, like really owning who you are, is through the voice of self-acceptance. The most powerful voice that you use in business is the voice that accepts yourself fully. Like that's really what we're talking about here. It's the voice that accepts you as you. No performance, no apology, no shrinking. That is your voice of self-acceptance. Premium clients, and I've had this affirmed to me so many times over the years, premium clients are not looking for a flawless coach. They're not. If you work with someone and they expect perfection, they are not your client. And they're probably going to be a heck of a lot of work, because guess what? Nobody's perfect. Like I have errors on sales pages. Have I have posts that flop, I mean, it's not everything is going to be perfect. And I might say something in a coaching call and I'm like, yeah, I didn't quite hit the mark there, and I make it right, if that's ever happened, right? So we're not looking for flawless. We're looking for someone who she is. She's grounded. She's real. She's certain. Like you want someone who's confident and certain in what they're bringing to you, right? Because that helps you feel a level of trust and a level of safety in the relationship there, the business relationship. Perfection, if you are a perfectionist, having to be perfect, you're performing. Okay. It signals that you're trying really hard to impress someone. It signals that you need someone else to think you're good enough. Ideal clients, they don't trust perfection energy. If someone has to be perfect, I am wondering what's going on there. It feels rigid, it feels rehearsed, it feels just disconnected. People, that's not how people are. Okay. What we want is permission. We're looking for permission to be ourselves, right? At this point in the journey of consciousness, in the journey of this earth, people, more and more people are looking for permission to be themselves because we were taught that that's not okay. If you are a coach or business owner who positions yourself through how you show up, how you embody yourself, that you have given yourself permission to be you, they will want to hire you because your presence says, oh, okay, so they're being powerful without performing. They're showing up as they already are. They want more and they're going for it. They're letting themselves take up space. It gives permission for you to do the same. That is attractive. That's what we want to hire. Okay, deep down inside, that is what we're looking for. Permission to be ourselves. From a premium client standpoint, okay, that's what a premium client wants. They want to up level their identity. They want permission to step into that next level, and they want to see that embodied in you. No matter what you teach, it doesn't matter what you teach. There's a energetic thing that goes on there that they may not be able, consciously even know or aware of, but that is that like the layer that's happening. And when you show up in that, that immediately creates the resonance for those people, for those premium clients. Perfection distances your most ideal clients. Permission draws them in. So when you give yourself permission, they're leaning in now. They want to hear more. So when it comes to self-acceptance, the voice of self-acceptance, there's a reflection in your guidebook for each of these, okay? And I'm going to go through this right now. So for the voice of self-acceptance, take a minute or two. We're not going to take long. How would your voice change if you trusted that you were already enough? If you just knew, you just trust, like you're so grounded in your knowing that you are already enough. If you knew that, what would be different in how you speak, in how you share, in things you say, in how you show up in your expression? Just take a moment and just jot down anything that comes up for that. And even think about, like, how would you phrase things differently? Like even things that have the same meaning, but how would you say them in a different way if you trusted you were already enough? And if you're not sure what you would do or say differently, which is very possible, especially if this is like really a new way of thinking about how you express yourself, what do you kind of now know you probably wouldn't be saying still if you fully accepted that you were already enough? So that's another way to say it. So take a few minutes, jot that down, and then we're going to move on. And if you need to come back to that one later, definitely do that. It's worth doing a little more deeper dive on that, on all of these actually. Okay, so the next voice I want to talk about as it relates to this performative voice versus standing in your quiet power voice comes in heavy in this module is the voice of desire. Because our desire is what shapes our expression. And desire is the most honest voice you have. And it's the one that you've probably muted the longest, right? When you speak from desire, your words land deeper. And when you speak from obligation or what you think you should do or say, your words fall flat. There's not the same level of juice to your words, right? Like desire is, we think of desire as like the imagery that comes up for me anyways, is like fire, right? It's like, oh yes, like that's hot, right? That's on fire, right? Like that's your desire. So there's energy there. There's a lot of power there. Obligation is just like want want, right? Responsibility, want want. Like it's not, the juice isn't there. So when it comes to your voice of desire, if you told the truth, this is a self-reflection. If you told the truth about what you want in terms of money, in terms of clients, in terms of visibility, how would your voice change if you were really going to be truthful and in your voice of desire? How would your voice change? So go ahead and just reflect on that. And similar to what I said with the voice of self-acceptance, self-reflection, if you can't really think of how it would change, what would you probably not still be saying if you were truthful and honest and forthright about what you really want? Where would you stop softening? Where would you stop kind of settling, making smaller, dimming down what you're saying? And I'll give you some examples of how I have done this just with posts. Historically, it has not been easy for me to, when it comes to money, anyways, a little bit different with parenting when I was doing that. But when it comes to money, clients, travel that I do, it has not been really easy for me to openly share that, like publicly. Some of the things that have happened financially or um, trips I've taken or things like that. I've not really wanted to be that. I felt it was too bold. I felt it was like braggy in some ways. And I just didn't want to put stuff like that out there. But that's one of the things I started to do probably about a year ago, was I started to get a lot more bold with what I was sharing. And like an example was when I went to Costa Rica for a month. I like boldly, I forget what my hook, my entry line was on the post I wrote, but I just put it out, like I just owned it, because it had been one of my big desires was to go there, and I coupled it with another one of my desires, which is to spend time away from in the winter. And so I put some bold statement out that like that. I had pictures of me like walking in the water, and I had this like little dress on, and just really owning what was going on. And it was scary to push the send button on that. But I was just looking at impressions that I've had online, and that was one of the ones that got more impressions than and comments and things than a lot of the others, because I was making it okay and giving myself permission to say, this is what I want, and this is what I did. And I talked about it, and I was proud about it. And when an ideal client looks at that, they're like, I would like that too. And I've actually had clients like share that with me. Like, one of the reasons I started, I wanted to work with you is because I've always wanted to do that. Maybe not the exact thing, but just the boldness of claiming that is what they resonated with. So that's the voice of desire in action. It's like kind of getting over yourself and all the reasons why we might hide things like that, and just being clear and showing those parts of yourself in your life. Okay. So that's about the voice of desire. Come back to that reflection, but think about that. Like, what would I say if I wasn't afraid to own what I really desire? How would I show that? What would I stop hiding behind? Now, the third voice that comes into play, and we're not going to go into any other ones, because these are the three primary voices related to your quiet power voice. Voice of intuition. Your intuitive voice is the one that knows exactly what needs to be said when it needs to be said. Isn't that great? Like it knows what you should say when. And so we can lean on that voice to speak our truth. We can trust that that voice is going to tell us if we allow it to speak, listen to it, and trust it enough to say it, right? When you follow your voice of intuition, your marketing takes a lot less time. I'm going to give you an example of that. Your content gets a lot clearer. Your message becomes unmistakable because it's coming like through you. It's not like you're not like it's you. And it's your most premium voice. Your intuitive voice is your most premium voice. And many women filter out their intuitive voice. They hear it, but they don't trust it enough to say it out loud, to say what it's saying out loud. And that's the muscle that we're working here when it comes to your quiet power voice, is trusting that if it comes up, it probably needs to be said. So this example just happened to me yesterday. Literally just happened. What I like to do is I like to post online in my favorite place, LinkedIn, 3 times a week. And I've gotten a really good rhythm of that. And it really feels, it's like fun and it feels good. And I love it. Like that's my creativity. And I get to pick out images and, work with it. So I have so much fun with that. But sometimes I get a little blocked. Like, what am I going to say? 3 times a week, like 3 times a week, I come up with something different. It's a lot. And I was feeling, and like I was kind of taskmaster, like, come on, Jill, you got to do this. You got to do this. But what I was really noticing is I felt really tired. And my voice of intuition said, this is in the middle of the day, said, just go lay on the couch. Just lay on the couch for a minute. And I was like, I don't have time. And I don't want to fall asleep. And I don't want, like, I got things to do. If I start to doze off, I'll take a nap and then no. But I listened to my voice of intuition and I obeyed it. And I put a little cushion down and I laid down. I kid you not. This is the craziest. I mean, I'm still like, did that really happen? In 7 seconds, I had a one-liner in 7 seconds come across my mind. And I'm like, oh, damn. Because I was just getting comfortable. I'm like, I have to go write that down. I have to. It's too darn good. So I got up, I went back to my computer, I typed it in, and I use ChatGPT. I've trained ChatGPT to know my voice, and I'm still working with it. We're still training it. But I popped the one line in because I was tired. I'm like, see what you can do with this based on all the stuff I had trained it on. Oh my God, it was so good. It was. I posted it like within probably 15 minutes of that one liner coming across the screen of my mind. And my impressions, 500% increase from last week because of that one post. That was my voice of intuition, saying, go lay down. And all I had, that was like, I just had to let go for 7 seconds. It came in. I'm like, I really like that. I can do something with this. And it was power. And if you want to know what it is, let's see if I can tell you, because you might be curious what it was. The hook of it was, stop working on yourself like you're a project to manage. Okay, that was the line that came to me in my head. Stop working on yourself like you're a project to manage. I'm like, that'll resonate so much with my ideal clients because we all do it. So that's a little example of how I got into my quiet power voice because I listened to my voice of intuition. I immediately acted on it. I put it out there in the resonance piece we've been talking about today. It happened. Like it happened with that post. Everything just shot up after that. So that's a real specific example. So we talked about the performative voice. We talked about the quiet power voice. We talked about how it connects in with 3 of your authentic quiet power voices, how they support you standing in this quiet power voice in your business. So now I want to talk about the 3 filters to release, because there are 3 filters that we put over ourselves that mute us, that soften us, that get us to the point where we have to use a lot of extra words. And there are self reflections with each of these. Okay, we're not going to do these today, but I'm going to talk very quickly through these filters. And then this is something you're going to want to come back to for yourself to see, like, where am I using this filter? You may use one more than the others. You may use all of them, but it's kind of to see, like, where am I using this filter? Where is this filter taking over rather than my true voice standing in it on its own? So the first filter is the make sure I'm liked filter. This is the filter that dilutes your realness. Like, it dilutes your authenticity. It dilutes your potency. It makes your message soft. It makes you forgettable because you're making it about you, because it's about you being liked, right? When it's about you being liked, now it's not about your client anymore. Do you think that's going to stand out? Because that energy is now, it's all about me needing to be liked. That is not attractive energy for premium clients. But that filter comes into play. And it definitely was for me back when I thought everyone needs to like me, right? So the make sure I'm liked filter. So you want to assess, like, where does that filter come into play for me? The second filter is the don't be too much filter. And I see this all the time in the amazing clients that I work with, is because they are all so freaking amazing. They are so much brilliance, so much wisdom, and they do make it smaller. They do filter that out. So I kind of expect that a lot of people that come into my world probably have this filter. It keeps you invisible. Premium clients do not see you through this filter because you're not showing the richness of you. You're not showing the gems of you, like the amazingness of you. And actually, for me, with that example of the Costa Rica thing I shared, that filter was coming into play every time I wouldn't post something like that, because I was afraid people are gonna be like, oh, like, that's too much, Jill. Like, why are you showing that? Like, what are you doing? That's what I was afraid of. So my don't do too much filter is like, you can't post that. That's hiding who I am. And then my premium clients, they're not going to see me because I'm not out there showing myself, right? So where does the don't be too much filter come into play for you when you're speaking, when you're sharing? And then the third filter is the say it perfectly filter. This is the perfectionism filter, right? If you came from a corporate background, this filter may come into play for you because that's what we were supposed to do. We had to say it perfectly. Or, like, you didn't get the promotion, you didn't get the raise, you were seen as not professional, whatever. This filter, more than any of the other filters, creates creation paralysis because you're trying too hard to make the perfect piece. So it becomes basically a nothing piece and it kills your authentic presence. It's kind of like, what's the right way to say this? Like, when you're thinking, what's the right way to say this, rather than this is what I believe, and owning it. Those are two completely different energies. If it needs to be the right way all the time, you're not real and your clients aren't going to hear you. They're not going to see you. So where does the say it perfectly filter come into play for you? Okay. So look at your content, think about what your conversations that you have, conversations that you need to have, things you do want to create, and assess yourself before you put something out there, before you say something, before you have a conversation. Assess where you might be falling into using any of these three filters, because that's what is going to dull and dim your message and hide the true you. All right. So we are coming to the end of our training here. And I just want to kind of wrap it up with how your unfiltered voice, the three things it does for you in your business. Three very powerful things. Number one is it attracts the right clients faster. The more you show up with your unfiltered voice, the more you are like, you get more impressions, right? Because there's something, people feel the realness. Like, people get it. People resonate with that. And your message is clear. It feels clear to them. and they want more. They're leaning in. So you're going to attract the right clients faster. Number two, it repels misaligned clients. And we haven't talked about this yet. And this is huge. So many heart-centered women that I work with and that are colleagues and such, they're so afraid to repel people. To the point, and they want to speak to everyone, they want to help everyone because they're a heart-centered, nurturing person, right? We want to help people. The thing is, there is a very specific person that you are here to help. You are actually not here to help everyone. I know you want to think you are, but you're not. You're here to help someone very specific. We must repel misaligned clients. It is a duty if you want to be happy and free and make the money you want, live the lifestyle you want, and have the space for your life. That's where I'm saying it's a must to repel the misaligned clients because they're the ones that burn us out. They're the ones that, are going to suck you dry. So you gain back a lot of time and a lot of energy when you let the misaligned clients go. So this is very, very important. We've got to be willing to not help everybody. And the more clear you can be, the more unfiltered you can be in your voice, the more you automatically turn off the people that are not meant to work with you. And that's a good thing. And then the third thing it gives you, being in your unfiltered voice when it comes to your business, is it reduces, this is very content specific, it reduces the amount of content that you actually have to create. So there is more ease. You are working less. I created that piece of content by laying down for 7 seconds and then putting Chat GPT to work, So that was really easy. That was really not time consuming whatsoever. It reduces how much you need to create because your voice becomes more potent. What's happening now, since I put that post out, is all of the posts that I've put out for the last couple of months are now, all of a sudden the impressions are going up on all of them. Now the algorithm is like pushing all my old stuff out more and more. And I'm getting like more followers just in the last day because of that one post. Because now and I'm getting likes on things. I'm like, I posted that 3 months ago. And this is not about chasing likes, but it's about getting seen by your most ideal clients. And so this content that I created 3 months ago is working for me when I'm not doing it, when I'm laying on the couch, when I'm not doing anything, when I'm cooking dinner, right? Because there's a recognition of a truth and a realness. And so even with these algorithms that are not real and true, they recognize that and they push out your stuff more. So it's really fascinating how that works. So this is why, if you were still questioning, do I really need to do this? Yes, it makes everything so much easier for you in your business. So the piece of homework, and this is really simple, and this is in your guidebook, and whether you have a business or not, because some people listening to this right now do not have a business, doesn't matter. What I really want you to do is write one paragraph of your real unfiltered truth about any subject. If it's in business, write it about your work or your clients. If it's not in business, write it about something in your life right now. One paragraph, just one paragraph of your most real, most unfiltered truth right now around something in your life. But I want you to write it from the perspective of, I'm going to share this, so that it's not going to be polished. So I want you to be in that mindset of, I'm going to share it because I want you to challenge the part of you that wants to make it polished and that wants to make it safe, and instead to share it in your real voice. If you knew that you had to say this to someone and it's your most raw, unfiltered truth, what are you going to say? And then step 2, that's step 1. Step 2 is go back, review it, and delete every softener. Every time you say just, every apology that's in there, every disclaimer you put in there, every I think instead of I know, and any maybe, or it seems like, or blah, blah, blah. Okay. Get rid of all the extra words and then rewrite it. See what's left. That is your power voice, your quiet power voice, what you end up with. So that's the challenge. Have fun with it. Let me know what you have, what you come up with. Okay. Let me know what was hard about it. Let me know what was easy about it. Okay. And that's our message for this week. That's the message of the unfiltered voice for this week. Now, if you actually go and you do the self reflections and the exercises that are in this week, you're going to start to feel what it's like to speak without performing. You'll be in that energy more, like that rooted, fully filled in tree trunk with the roots and all. You're going to start feeling that more and more, that embodiedness. That is the voice that has you be seen. That is the voice that is you fully expressing yourself. And that is the voice that gets you fully paid. Yay, that's what we want, right? If we're in business, we want to be fully paid. Clients do not buy from a woman who works hard or has to work harder. They buy from the woman whose presence and truth land in their body and say, I need to work with her. Like she's the one, right? That's that energetic resonance that I'm talking about. It comes through in your quiet power voice. That's how you make the connection. Your voice is your power. It's time to stop filtering it. Okay. We start today. Okay. So that is module 2. And let me know what comes up for you. I want to hear what's happening. Thank you for being here.